Jones, Fife and Laird, welcome back to Siren. I'm Xavier.
I'm Dylan. Welcome back to another Supercoach episode with the boys. The first week of the AFL season is all completed, and it's a bit of a lackluster week for Supercoach. We'll dabble into that in a moment. But more importantly, Das, how are you this week?
Yeah, no, good, mate. Coming off that North win, that should have been a much better win than it was, but win's a win at this point as a North fan. So pretty happy about that, and not happy about the Super Coach. But other than that, we'll just move past that. Round one. Hopefully, we'll bounce back.
Save, you're the only person here who didn't come away with a win nor a loss, in fairness. But how have you been?
I'm absolutely rubbish. As you alluded to, I'm a Carlton supporter, you can see. So started off the week with a draw, which wasn't the best, especially the situation we were in a couple of minutes to go. I thought we were going to come away with a win for sure, but then the rest of the week just got ruined with Supercoach. We'll get into it later, but I've got the worst rank that I've ever had in my entire life. My
Yeah,
team looks ruined already after 1 week. I finished second last in our 20-man league. And the only person that finished below me was Fitzy, who scored like 1,500 and doesn't even play. So yeah, my team's not looking good.
yeah. I
All
had a look
right.
through. I had a look through my ranks, and the last time I was this low was when I started the game in round two or round three or something like that. So it's pretty poor. How'd your team go, Dill?
Not too bad, just under 2,000, 1978 this week for me, which I think is top 23% when I looked at the percentages. Not too bad, but
Pretty
obviously
nice.
it was rough. Not having, I didn't have Laird as captain. I'll show you in a moment. Who wants to go first? Should I just kick things off?
Yeah, you go, Dill. You had the best week. So we'll start the viewers off by thinking we're actually good at Supercoach.
All right, so here's my team. This was last week. In the back line, you had Sicily, Doherty, and then Will Day was a little underwhelming. Had Neil as captain, had 71 at halftime, I believe, and then didn't really manage another five touches in the second half. Tom Mitchell played all right. Bontempelli was okay. Laird, of course, severely underwhelming as well. Jared Witt's the saviour. And then in the forward line, you had Dunkley, who scored 108. Fife is a major concern. And Lord Sheasel showing us what he's capable of.
Yeah, it's a bit of a rough week for you there. No, not really compared to what you're about to see. But Fife there is a bit tough for you.
Yeah,
I think Xavier's in the same boat there. His role just looked horrible. I thought he
yeah.
played deep forward all game, and even when it was a close game with 10 minutes to go, Freo still didn't chuck him into the midfield, which just baffles me honestly. Like you think two-time Brownlow medalist midfielder, if it's a close game with 10 minutes to go, you chuck him in the mid, but they stuck with keeping him forward, and he just couldn't get involved.
I've got, I started Fife for sort of the reasoning you were saying. Like he's a two-time Brownlow medalist. We know all the talks have been about he's going to play keep forward, deep forward this year. But I still expected when you're one of the best midfielders of our generation, one of the best players I've ever seen. I kind of expected he'd still get at least 10%, maybe 20% of CBAs. Like if it's not working, I thought this game in particular would be like the blueprint. If he's not playing well up forward, he can't get a touch, the team's midfield isn't winning the ball, then maybe you just swing the dice, you swing the axe, you put him in the midfield, try and change something up. But clearly Fremantle, when they weren't playing well, Fife isn't playing well, and they still don't change it. I think it's probably a pretty safe bet that for the rest of the year, this is the role that he's going to play, regardless of how the rest of the season goes. Um, so I'm sure Dylan probably is in the same boat, but he's gone for me. I'm not keeping him. Can't do it.
this
Yeah,
doesn't
so
indicate anything, but I do think Callum Wilkie is one of the more underrated premium defenders, and he was obviously the main forward. Taberner had an underwhelming performance as well, but it depends if Fife is going to consistently draw that number one defender, because I'd say Callum Wilkie is probably secured as number one defender. Now against North Melbourne this week, who would you say would be matched up with Fife this week?
probably
Give him another
Aiden.
chance.
Yeah, I reckon you'll probably be seeing an Aiden Bonner match up there, and Aiden Bonner tends to leak a few goals. He's sort of a medium defender there, so I wouldn't be blown away if Five kicks 2 or 3, maybe even 4 this week. So I've been saying a bit that, like, he's definitely not a long-term hold. He's not going to make you much cash at that price. But you could always hold him just this week just to get that extra 80. Because I think he will probably score decently this week. If he doesn't, I'll be pretty shocked. And I think, it's absolutely a trade out then. I also saw with Freo, they seem pretty stubborn with their midfield setup. So in the entire match, they only played 2 rucks, being Darcy and Jackson, and just the 4 midfielders. So it was Sarong, O'Meara, Brayshaw, and Brody. They were the only 4 midfielders that appeared in centre bounces. So it seems like they're very, very narrow-minded on who they've got running through the midfield. So
That's sort of like what I was. Oh, sorry, you keep going.
Yes, I think that is just a bit of a concern for Fife, because even if you saw like a couple other blokes getting runs through, like, I don't know, maybe like a Henry, like a Liam Henry, get 1 or 2 bounces, show a bit of flexibility. You might think Fife's a better chance for the fact that they're just so set on just those 4. Bit of a concern.
That's sort of like what I was saying in our preseason episode as well. Like, I don't think Fremantle's midfield is that deep. You said 4 players ran through this past week, and I was saying Fife is probably still that number 5 guy. And so often now in like modern AFL, you see teams bring 6, 7 people through the midfield, sometimes even 8. So I thought Fife be that 5th guy, comes in, goes to maybe 4 or 5 a game, but it didn't happen. So he's got to get the flick for me, I think.
Now, you also have the implicit reflection on Rowan Marshall there, because he had to contend with Darcy and Jackson. I wouldn't be too concerned about a score of 80. You could see Darcy was, obviously, he always contains most of the hit outs on the stats, but Rowan Marshall was doing a little bit more around the ground. And to be honest, it was a bit of an odd game in terms of scoring, not only in terms of Supercoach, but also on the scoreboard itself, 67-52. So I wouldn't really be too concerned overall. And Marshall has English this week as the solo ruckman.
Also with Marshall, I feel like, Darcy's always hard to score against, wouldn't be too concerned there. And just a couple more points for your team. I think it's probably a bit annoying for you that your two of your bigger pods, being Dylan Moore and Will Day, didn't quite land for you. I'm a bit off Will Day. I was thinking of getting him in, but he didn't show enough for me on the weekend.
I think Dylan will be okay.
I think 23% is for Will Day as well. So it's probably not quite enough to be pushing that like keeper in the back 6. So.
All right.
Just on Darcy quickly as well. I think he probably underperformed as well. 96 points isn't quite as much as you'd like from him, especially when English and Wits went for 140 each. But in saying that, I think Darcy went to 85% of CBAs, Jackson only 15, which for Darcy's career is extremely high. I think his career high for a season is like 73%. So the role, surprisingly, even with Jackson there, seems to definitely be there. So I'd probably hold off on him, getting rid of him for another couple of weeks as well, which is the boat that I'm in. So I'll share my team on that note.
Just while you do, Nick Dacos, talking point, 129 this week, as you can see him in Zave's backline.
So we're going to touch on the heroes and villains. Nick Dacos, definitely a hero of mine. I actually really wasn't that high on the pick at all. But with Yo going down, I had Bose in my backline as well. Obviously, he didn't play, so I kind of had to fill some holes, and Dacos was the man that I looked to, and he performed really, really well. I think I'm probably not even, I wouldn't even recommend that highly and go and trading for Dacos this week, just because, again, he didn't go to a single centre bounce this past week or in the preseason either. So he's going to have the same role that he had last year coming off that half back line. And I think he could score well. He obviously did this week. But I'd give it another week or 2 before I'm really convinced that he's going to be a back 6 keeper.
See, I disagree with Dacos there. I feel like if you watch him, he was just demanding the ball from everyone. And they kept giving it to him. Like, coming out of the back line, they always wanted the ball in his hands. He was taking kick outs. I don't know, Scott Pendlebury would be taking a mark on the wing and Dagos would be demanding a handball off or a 10-meter kick. Like, he
Yeah.
just wanted the ball, which is a great thing for a super coach pick. I think, there's no point waiting a week in Dagos because what are you going to do? You're just going to miss another score of 130, 140 for these first few weeks when he's going to be somewhat free of the tag. Like, I don't think Port will tag him. They don't really play taggers. So I think, until round 5 or 6, I think is when his first tag will probably come in place. I think there's no point waiting until it gets to then because then you're trading him in and he's probably going to be getting 80s, 90s. Whereas you can be cashing in on his good scoring now.
Just quickly, a trio of topics to discuss. Liam Jones obviously was injured in the opening quarter. Now, he might play this week, so wait for the announcements. Obviously, the rolling lockout isn't very assistive in that manner. Also, Tanner Braun was given a fair amount of time on the bench, which probably is a little concerning. And then I also noticed you had one trade already completed. Who was
Yeah,
the
that
previous?
was the Fife to Sheasel one. So obviously they were two huge mistakes. One starting Fife for him to score only like 25 or whatever he got, and then not starting Sheasel as a rookie who scored 114. They're two really, really big ones that hurt me a lot. So the other one, obviously Jones, you said, touched on 5 points. He hurts, and Rory Laird as the captain with 50 hurts a ton. And it's so annoying. Like, there's a lot of people that have faded like the Neils, Lairds, those really expensive midfielders, and gone for people like the Bont at M1. And like the whole reason of picking them was to have a safe captain, vice captain option every week. Like, and then people are going to captain Bontempelli and still get a 50-point bonus for spending 70K less. And
Yeah.
that's just ridiculous. Even you, Dylan, like you got your Neil captain and like 95, you probably would be a bit livid, a bit furious normally, but you scored 45%, 45 points more than 40% of teams. So it's a bit of a bonus there.
Yeah, so
Kate
touching
Chandler,
on
Darts, are you a fan of him? Bit of a
no,
random question
no, I'm not a fan of Kate Chandler.
there. Okay.
He scored the 93, but I just don't think his job security is any good. Demons have about 4 players due to come back in this week or next week. And out of the bottom 4 in the team, I'd say it'd have to be one of those. So he'll probably go out along with at least one of the debutants from last week. But if he keeps his spot, scores another 80, 90, I think you just have to get him for round 3 if he's playing just for that cash. But I don't think his job security is good enough to hold him. He'll be one of those players like a Tom Highmore from a couple of years ago, I reckon, where he'll get a couple of good scores in the start and then probably won't play for half the season. And then you might get 1 or 2 games every few weeks. And then just on Liam Jones, I think if he is playing, he's worth a hold, to be honest. He did play pretty much the whole first half and only scored 5, so that's pretty rubbish. But he's playing the Saints, and you look at what the Saints gave up last week for the Freo defenders. So he very well could have a good 80, 90-point game, and then he'll be back into it. And then, as they was discussing, I think during the week, that, the first round only affects one price rise. So 5 will be out of that price changes very soon. So I think it could be a hold. Otherwise, if he's out, I'm in the predicament at the moment. If he's out, it might be a Jack Bowes, or I might just go completely down to a rookie.
I was actually just thinking about that. I had Jones Bose, all preseason, and he actually got the switch to Jones just after he got named out. And I think if he isn't named, I'll probably do the switch right back. It's probably a bit risky given he hasn't played yet, but yeah, I don't really think there's anyone else around that price range. Maybe Yo if he gets named, but that's looking unlikely. So yeah, I think that might be.
I think Yo should be back this week.
Save, will Radigalea start for you this week?
I think he has to, unfortunately. Ideally, he wouldn't be. I could maybe do Long. No, but I think, yeah, it'd probably be Radigalia again. I think he had a few moments last week where he could have had a bigger score, gave away a few frees, dropped a few marks, but I think a 70, 60, 70 is definitely in the range for him, and that maybe isn't the worst for a couple of weeks. But he's definitely the first person I'm looking to upgrade.
All right. Das, we'll get you on next.
Yeah,
Charlie
no worries.
Constable, I wouldn't be too worried about either. He had 20 odd touches for a score of 56, obviously inefficient, but if you can consistently have that output of 20 plus disposals, I don't
Yeah, I
think
think
we'll see him.
Constable finds the ball so
Yeah.
well all his career against, like he had an 80 average, I think his first or second season with Geelong, and he took kick-ins last week, so he's going to get a ton of the ball and just needs to use it a bit better to score better. If he holds his spot, he's going to be a great D6 for a while.
Firm
Yeah,
hold.
see, the if there for me is pretty big though, because I don't know if he does hold his spot, because Lockie Weller's back in this week. So I think for Lockie Weller, it's one of Uland dropped or
Yeah.
Constable. So I think very well could be Constable this week. So keep an eye on that. But I'm really starting to lean towards the fact that Constable's probably going to be dropped this week, and he'll be a bit of a bench fodder for us, which is unfortunate. But he went at something like 45% efficiency, and he just had like 10 plus turnovers. He's just a turnover machine.
Hmm.
So I don't know if Gold Coast be too keen on keeping him around, keeping him in for much, unless he plays this week and improves that. But yeah, I'm a bit worried about Constable personally. Yeah, but we'll get on to my team now. So this is how it was looking during the week. Pretty
Speaking to Zave
frustrating.
yesterday, the Lockie Ash pick caught me by surprise. And I did mention that, didn't I? So,
Yeah, he did. Yeah. I think. Do you know how many teams he's in? Because I actually saw one of my other friends was looking at picking Ash as well, and it is a bit risky, especially if he is going to tag a bit this year. But let's see, uh,
It was in 2%.
2%. Yeah, so that's a big pod right there.
Yeah.
Obviously it didn't work out round one, but uh, interested to hear your thoughts on why you picked him.
Um, I just knew he was likely to get a lot of the footy coming off the half-back line for GWS, because they were going on about this orange tsunami sort of thing where they're just going to keep running and rolling up the back line. So I thought Ash would be great for that. They just look to get the ball in his hands and he just run it, get a good 50-meter kick, which just counts as an efficient kick as long as it's not a direct turnover. So I thought he had pretty good efficiency. Um, and he did get 21 touches on the weekend, but he just didn't have much else going. I think he laid a tackle, and I think most of his touches were uncontested. So I took him on as the pod for the price that he is. I thought he could average around 90 to 100, and then by round 6, we'd get him as a backman. So I'd be able to swing him back there and have him fill, D6 for a while there. That was sort of the plan. Like D6, he'd probably be one of my last upgrades, but first weekend 21 touches and only got 55. It's similar to Constable. So I think I will be looking to move him on this week. Hunter Clark killed me a bit. I was
yeah.
sort of keen on him. I think I mentioned it to Xavier at the start of last week, so it wasn't even like a late thing because Yo was out. I was keen on him a bit before that. I heard he'd be an inside midfielder. I think he got about 40% CBA, but he just looks really slow. And he's not going to blow the game apart at that price and with those scoring. So I think he's probably my other trade out this week. So, two failed mid-price pods at this point. So, I think it's best to just correct it now and just get onto some safer options.
I think
Ash
Ash
Clark actually played well. It's just that he didn't produce enough for a super coach score, if that makes sense. But he did do all the right things.
Yeah.
I think Ash for me is a super interesting one in the midfield because there are a lot of people around his price range that scored super well in round one. Obviously, Warple had like 97 or something. Callahan went for 100 plus. Horn Francis went for like 120 something. Setterfield as well. Yeah. So all four of those guys are in a similar price range and all scored super well. So I'm interested as to who you're going to pick. And
you'll be pretty bored by it. We'll reveal it later when we get through our trades, but you'll be pretty bored by it. And then so unfortunately I had to start Oscar Baker with Will Phillips going out. I wasn't able to get up to a Cam Mackenzie with the money that I had, which was pretty frustrating. I would have liked to. Tim English I was quite happy with as solid ruck. It'd be interesting this week though, those two playing each other. Hopefully avoid keeping the vice or the captaincy on either of those. And then we'll sort of touch on Bruin initially, but I think he got hurt by Stewart's injury. So Stewart coming off and Parfitt coming on. Parfitt went straight into the midfield and pushed Bruin out to a wing, which sort of led to him have more time on the bench and not being able to get in the game as much because he was on the wing. But, in the first half, I thought he looked good. He was playing well, getting plenty of touches. So I'm not too worried about him. I'm giving him another week. But if he's still on that, wing role this week, it's probably going to be a trade out. But other than that, despite getting a pretty poor score, I think it was around 1860, so I'm terrible rank in the 80Ks. I'm not too unhappy with it. I think it's a pretty quick fix. Like I got Stocker, which I feel like was a pretty decent option there. Laird 50 cooked me a bit, but I've got Tom Green and Cogs who both look unreal.
And of course, retrospectively, Will Phillips did actually play and scored 65.
Yeah, exactly. So,
all right. Yeah. Two of the trades, we did mention them before.
So just quickly on Bruin, I think he's going to get another week for me as well. He's had 41% of CBAs, which was a lot considering he only played 65% of the game. So that's like most of the time he's on the field, he's going to the centre bounce. So I'm going to keep him another week. I think at 41% CBAs, he could score really well. But at 65% time on ground, I don't think he can. So if he gets that up like closer to 80% this week, I think he could be a really good pick going forward. But if not, then he's looking like he's going to get the flick as well. But again, as I said before, there are a lot of really good players around his price range, especially in the midfield with the Warples, Callahans, Setterfields of the world. So I think he's an easy one to downgrade or upgrade if need be next week.
Trade stars?
So it's not going to be as exciting as either of you probably would have hoped based on how I was talking about it, but I'm thinking of going Hunter Clark and Lockie Ash out and bringing Goulden in the forward line. So then, or I think we'll be playing Goulden in the forward line, moving Bruin to the midfield, which I like that look a bit better. And then Cam Mackenzie in as well. So I won't be going anything ridiculous mid-priced. I'd like to see another week out of Setterfield, Callahan, Horn Francis, whatnot, even Jack Siebel. I'd like to see another week out of them before pulling the trigger on any of them. But, it's just a bit of a corrective trade. I missed Mackenzie and he scored 93. And he looked great. And I missed Goulden, who, I had him for a while there, but, I just didn't have enough money to fit him in if I wanted Sheasel and Bruin as well. So, it's just the route that I went down for this week.
I'll be trading in Horn Francis for Fife, I think. I have enough to do a straight swap. Maybe waiting until next week. And then if need be, I can also replace McAndrew with Cade Chandler. But I think this week could just be another spectacle for me.
I really like the Horn Francis pick. I think he's a great player to watch. And obviously you get a little bit of added benefit when he's in your team if he's playing well. Personally, I can't quite do it this week. I think I'm going to watch him one more. So I've got 5 going out for Sheasel, definitely. He scored 114. He needs to be in my team. Can't believe I didn't have him to start off with. Other than that, though, I've got a lot of missed players. So, I missed Tom Green. I missed Goulden. Plenty of players that could definitely come in. Definitely that one trade. And then I'm thinking about a Bruin or Jones to like a Goulden or Horn Francis, but I think that one's going to have to wait one more week.
Well, you think, though, that next week you've only got maximum 3 trades, so is it worth pulling the trigger on one of those earlier? So then you can save up those 3 trades to get any rookies you need to get or make any other moves because, I think I personally need to I'll probably make another 2 or 3 next week. So that's why I'm pulling the trigger on 2 now rather than giving it another week.
Both of your ones, like Mackenzie is in a similar boat to Sheasel. He has to come in, this week. I can't wait any longer on him. With a 93 at 180k is excellent. But the other two or three, I think could still wait one more week, because if they pop out like an 80 this week, then I'm going to be really disappointed that I traded to them and probably wouldn't have picked them next week. So I think just whoever scores the most out of them this week will come in next week. And then we'll see on Braun and Jones. If they score well, I can keep them. But if not, then yeah, they'll be the ones going out for them.
All right, boys. Any other last notes or last minute points? We have had a few questions on the Instagram account, but we can also answer them before tonight via social media.
Yeah, we'll give them. We might give them a crack at Q&A tonight, but just don't ask us the same 5 questions over and over like they always do. So
All right,
answering what's happening with Stuart.
Just the old Go Blues. We're playing tonight, so reigning premiers, great team. No Stuart, which is I guess obviously you don't want to root for injuries, but it's pretty good for Carlton. Yeah, hopefully we can get our first win of the season, get back into the top 8.
Winnable games for all of our sides, which I thought I'd be shocked in saying if I looked before last week. North Melbourne can beat Fremantle Dust after their lethargic performance last week. That's my tip of the week. Not to claim an upset yet, but they're a chance. And then Saints Bulldogs should also be an interesting game. But I think Zave probably has the best chance here. That's all for this week.
Yeah, no, I wasn't confident with North against West Coast last week, and West Coast is half their side made 3 as 2s.
As long as Sheasel gets a fair bit of the ball, I think we'll all be all right with it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a good one. Enjoy the footy this week, and we'll be back to review how our Supercoach sides performed after this week. Catch you later.